Yeah, like I'm doing the live thing. I say, is it live? I'm going. I said go live. Oh, go live right there. Okay, let me go on my YouTube page. Okay, I've got to do my thing. Okay, bye. All right. My live over here. Yes. Mhm. Okay, so can I hear myself? All right, testing. All right, I hope that I am live, that you all can hear me. I'm just gonna turn on my earpiece. I'm just gonna go ahead and get it started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Remarkable Shift. This is our first episode of this season, and I am so excited to be with you. Oh, you can't hear me. All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Remarkable Shift Live series. This is our first episode in this season. I am so happy to be joining you live, whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. And we are going to talk about the 90-day blueprint to crushing your goals without burning out. We know that this is January, it is a new year and a new season, and everyone is in this feeling of let me start, getting everything right. Let me do my vision boarding and my planning and all of that, which is great. But there are times when you're going to probably feel the burnout. So we don't want this to be a janky January. We don't want to be faded out by February, and we don't want a miserable March. What I'm going to talk to you about is the root cause of why goals tend to fail. And that's because I want us to have a joyous January, a favorable February, and a magnificent March moving forward. And I do it 90 days because I think it's beneficial for a lot of us to focus on 90-day sprints instead of going through this whole process of setting year-long goals. Nothing wrong with year-long goals, but if you find out that you've been not accomplishing them, that's probably because they're too big, too far out, and you've detached yourself. So you already know background educator, so I do have my lesson plan with me. And if you are a high performer, high achiever, you're a go-getter, all of those things, this is for you. And I'm going to say something. This is mainly for my people who tend to for it can be for anyone who resonates with the message that I am going to share today, but mostly for people who have gone through the traditional education route or something similar. And the reason why I say that is because there was a structure and a system put in place for you to achieve that degree or that certification. And I'm not talking about like the certifications that I know it sounds bad, but that people outside of institutions have. I'm talking about institution based certifications. There's a system and a framework that was set in place for you to follow, and you were able to accomplish that goal. So when you look at something like that, you do have the requirements and the capabilities to accomplish a goal. But if you're looking at like outside of that, and you're like, well, what is it? I'm like this full grown adult. I'm out here with all of these resources, this know-how, this education, this experience, all of that. Why can I accomplish new goals that I'm putting in place for myself or new intentions? And it's because you may not be following the rivers and the lakes that you're used to, the structure and the systems and the framework that were put in place inside of an institution. So now you have to create an institution for yourself or work with people who will be able to help you do that. So, yes, you may feel like it's a stretch when you are going after goals, but just remember when you are climbing up the corporate ladder or in your career or in your education or in your weight release journey, your fitness journey, whatever you have accomplished before, there was still a process. There was still a time where you wanted to give up, or you may have felt like, oh gosh, I cannot do this, but you did it anyway. All we're doing is unpacking what you've already done. And I'm going to give you a blueprint for that. So I want you to think about, and I kind of said this already. Think of something that you've already accomplished, and how did you accomplish it? When did you accomplish it? How long did it take? Chances are that it wasn't like super overwhelming. And then when you look back on at it, you don't think about the times that you were burnt out, because it was like you still had momentum, you still had something to strive towards. So I want you to be in that mind frame as we talk about and go through the blueprint today. Now, this is not like your typical video that you see me. I got a little whiteboard. Hopefully you can see it. This says 90-day blueprint, but I want to make sure that you leave here with inspiration and also implementation. That is what is happening. I've seen it all across the board, especially when people are going to another level in their career or trying to look at any of the 15 plus areas of your life where you're trying to up level. You're not implementing. We haven't been implementing at the level that we know that we're capable of, and that is causing burnout and goal failure. And so I want you to know that everything is not entirely your fault. So it's not that you're lazy, it's not that you lack motivation. It's really none of that. It may be like a little percentage of that, but that's not the main thing as to why you're not accomplishing what you want to accomplish. So three things that we're going to talk about: why goals fail, and how to avoid the burnout. Then we're going to talk about the three pillars of a sustainable 90-day plan. And then I'm going to share with you a real life example of how to bring this all together. So let's jump into uncovering the root cause of goal failure. So some common mistakes. Number one is being vague. Did I spell that right? You're setting up goals that are too vague and unrealistic. So and some of this may seem common sense, but that's why I want you to go back and think about something that you've already accomplished, and then so you can make that comparison. So for me, I finished my doctorate degree in 3 years. Now, when I first set on that journey, I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I remember from undergrad that I had a college professor tell me that she finished her doctorate in 3 years. Now, in undergrad, I was not thinking about getting a doctorate at all. I'm like, can I just finish this level, right? So it wasn't until years later, but that seed was already planted. So it was already out there. It was specific. 3 years, I'm going to finish my PhD. I didn't even know what I was going to get a PhD in at the time. That was just something there. So I wasn't vague. I knew exactly what to do. Now, if you're saying something like, well, I want to go back to school, now that is vague. So again, go back to something that you've already accomplished and look at how specific you were, right? So let me put failure up here so you'll know. So this is why you fail. It's too vague, right? So you think about something, look at your vision boards. I know you all went to vision board parties and you probably bought vision board courses and things like that. Go back and look at one of the goals that you had and see if it's too vague. I believe that sometimes we are afraid to be specific about a goal because we get hung up on the why. You might say, I want to increase my income, which is vague, but you're afraid to say, I want to increase my income by 20%. I want to generate, $50,000 or $50,124.32. You're not doing that because you could be afraid, but we're unhooking ourselves from that and just giving ourselves permission to be specific as possible. Now you can go through the SMART goal setting method if you want to. There are a plethora of methods to follow. I would advise you to take a step back from the SMART goals for a little bit, because you could be hung up so much on the realistic part or the time bound part. Allow yourself to explore different options. And if you are interested in those, one, you can Google them. But if you don't want to do all that and you want to see my perspective on that, make sure you comment down below and I can get that resource for you, or you can subscribe to this live stream show and that information will be down below. All right, so now that's the root failure. One of the root causes is being too vague. You have to be specific about your goal. And then be you might be unrealistic. Now, I'm not talking about not dreaming. And I think sometimes you people stay too small, especially the people that I've worked with, and I've done this myself. You think about something and you limit yourself because you think that that's not being realistic. Now, one thing is, and for me, if I'm like, oh yeah, I want to go be an astronaut, right? Considering like the state and the circumstances, my age and so many, now could I maybe, but I mean, is that really realistic about what I want to do? Absolutely not. So that's what I'm talking about. But if it's something where if it's not somebody in your immediate circle or your family hasn't done it, but there's an example somewhere, that means it's possible for you. So that's why I want to make sure that you're stretching yourself and not get caught up on, well, I haven't seen anybody do it personally, or no one in my circle has done that. So how is that going to be possible for me? That is not it. Now, if you've gotten something where you're not willing to show up and be that person yet, like, oh, I want to make $2 million in a day, that may be unrealistic for you. It's not unrealistic. I've seen people do it, right? And I'm like, oh, I need to strive to get there. But when I learned about all the things that need to take place, it's like, well, I need to become a whole different person and set up a whole different thing. Am I ready to do all of that? That's what I mean. So let me know if that's clear to you. So another root cause is being too vague and unrealistic. And the second root cause is overdoing it. Can you see that? Overdoing. And you're not prioritizing. So if you went to the vision board parties and and you created your vision board and did all of that, how many of you have like more than four things that you're trying to focus on? If that's the case, that means you're doing too much. I forget who says it, but it's like one of these prominent people, uh, Jim Rohn, one of them in that group, said, and correct me if I'm wrong for the person who said it, but they said make a list of everything you want to accomplish. I think Warren Buffett even said something similar to this. Make a list of everything you want to accomplish and then circle the top, put them in order. Whatever your top one is, scratch everything off the list and do that one thing. And the reason why that's sometimes we're like, oh my gosh, but I have so much I want to accomplish. I can't do everything. I said I can't let anything go because they're all important to me. But when you're setting goals, it doesn't mean even within this 90 days that you need to accomplish all 10 things. What if you just focus on one or two for the 90 days and then let everything else go? What I've seen happen working with clients and from personal experiences, you make this list, you have the vision board, and every day you're looking at all of them and you're overwhelmed because you haven't taken the time to prioritize. And then that causes you to overdo. How many of you have been overdoing for the last couple of years? You're like, I want to write a book. I want to focus on my weight. I want to build healthier relationships. I want to build a business. I want to generate more money. I want to go, be a speaker. I want to go plant a garden. I want to buy a house. I want to build a house. I want to go do this and that. Yes, this is going to be my year to do all those things. This is why you're burning out. You're not prioritizing, and it is okay. I'm going back to my school example. Think about when you were in school. You took the overarching goal, the specific goal was to graduate in, we'll say 4 years, whether it took you more or less time. The standard is 4 years. You finish in 4 years, but you're going to go to school and get this degree. That was specific. It wasn't vague. You're vague. You may have changed your major, but you were going there for this. Okay. Then you knew that, well, I can't go finish all 4 years in one day. So then everything was broken up by semester. Semesters were broken up by courses. Courses were even broken up by assignment. So yes, the big goal was 4 years, but then to say, well, what am I doing my first year, my first semester? Then You're like, you prioritize that. What courses am I taking? Your focus is here. You're not looking at your senior year, right? Your focus right there, whether that's a master's degree or PhD. Even when I was in my PhD program, yes, I wanted to finish in 3 years, but what was the first year going to look like? What was the first semester going to look like? What were the first classes? What were they going to look like? What did I need to prioritize in that time? So this is where you transfer where you've been successful. Same thing if you went up the corporate ladder. You didn't overdo. If you were in a senior level position, you may have shown up day one, say, I'm going to the top. I'm going to be in the C suite, V suite, whatever suite. Okay, great. But what did you do? What was the first thing that you did? And for some reason, we forget about the simplicity of those things when we're branching out something outside of our comfort zone. So you cannot overdo anything. That is a root cause of goal failure. You're not prioritizing. And think about it, when you prioritize something for 90 days, you'll be surprised how fast certain things get done, especially the things that are within your control. So you're overdoing it and you are not prioritizing. The third cause of failure, now I don't want to do green. Let's keep this in the red family. I promise you, they've been different colors. They just showing up on here. Is what is it? Um, no support systems. So no support systems. And it's neglect. So it really is neglecting self-care and support system. So self-care doesn't mean just, oh, I'm going to take a nap or go get a massage, or that's pretty much like maintenance. But self-care as it relates to crushing your goals, especially in 90-day sprints, is what boundaries do I need to put in place? What do I need to do on a daily basis to make sure that I'm able to prioritize my goal, right? Whether that's ordering a home cleaning service for that time frame, getting a meal service for that time frame, not driving if you can spare a little change and maybe take a Uber so you can focus on like not driving, you get things accomplished. Asking friends or family to help take care of the kids, whatever it is, your life. A lot of us think that we can do it all, but there are people or systems, especially, with this big wave of AI, even though AI has been around like since what, the 70s, but whatever. But with everything happening, our lives can be so much easier if we use the technology to create systems in place for us to like automate things and set up routines for us and really leverage the technology that we're already doing. Because a lot of times we bring these things on ourselves and we're like, oh my gosh, I don't have any help. Well, you haven't delegated or relinquished that control, and you have to put a support system in place. When I was getting my doctorate degree, there were things I had to put in place with my grandmother, talk with my sister, things with my mom's house. It was so many things I had to put in place to make sure y'all know, hey, I am leaving a career. I'm going to school full time. I had to make sure bills were paid that far out. I paid off my truck at the time. So there were things that I had put in place to have that support system. I made sure I got a fellowship so I can have some kind of income coming in. So this is why you need to take time to really sit through your goals. This is why you cannot afford to be vague about your goals, because the more specific you are about what you actually want to accomplish, then you can allow yourself to say, well, what is it going to take for me to make sure that I accomplish that? This is not so much getting into the how you're going to do it, but what is it going to take? If you're trying to write a book, what is it going to take for me to do that? If you want to build a house, what is it going to take for me to do that? And we're not talking about just the capital, but it's all those things. That's where you need to research and really take a deep dive. And then this is why, if you really get specific and avoid being vague, then you'll know what you're not overdoing. Then you'll know what you need to prioritize. Because sometimes when you look at your goals and you haven't done your due diligence about everything that's going to take, it looks like, oh, I can do this all right now. I can do all 12 goals in 90 days and I am good. That's not the case, right? Because you really haven't considered the cost. That is biblical. Count up the cost before you go out and do anything. And then you'll know what support systems you need to have in place. This is not a one size fit all, because I think a lot of times people are going to coaches, consultants, advisors, getting into programs, buying courses, watching a ton of YouTube videos for your exact thing to do. And you may click on this or even watch the replay and say, okay, she's going to tell me exactly what to do. Some of this is the inner work you have to do on your own. No one's going to be able to give you an actual blueprint for you to follow if you haven't done the work. Everything, just like college. College, the way it's all set up, it is a systematic framework. It is a blueprint of what you need to follow every day. But the variable, you are the variable. Variables, anything can happen. So while I can say you take all of these, and I was an advisor, while you can take all these classes, I recommend you go down this path. I don't know how you are going to show up. I don't know what's going on in your Verizon network before you show up, right? So there are some things that you need to do first in order to make sure, in order for this blueprint to really do what it's supposed to do and to maximize your results. All right. So now, we got a couple things to talk about. All right, let me go ahead because we are in 20 minutes and I don't want to hold you long. All right. So one thing I know you've heard people say that your goals should be like a marathon and not a sprint. Here's my thing with that. In a marathon, there's still a system, right? So in a marathon, there's still a system. I used to run a lot of races. I think I've never done a marathon. I never done I mean, so that you'll know that that's not March. I never done a marathon or a half marathon. That's somewhere on the list to do. But I used to run, I think the longest I did was a 15K. Was that like 9.3 miles or something like that? And before I even started, I didn't jump out and say, I'm going to go run this 15K. I had been working up to it. There used to be an app called, I think it was Couch to 5K. And every day you would go do something. So my first race started with 5Ks. Like I didn't just jump into a 15K. I started with a 5K, right? And there were times where I did sprint, like they would suggest like, okay, go jog now, go pick up the pace and sprint. So there are times when you do sprint towards your goal, but just know that that is part of the journey. So on Couch to 5K, you'll run a little bit, you'll walk a little bit, you sprint, and then it'll be like, do this for 30 seconds. Then you do it for a minute, then you do it for 2 minutes. And then if you keep going, you'll know that you found your rhythm to be able to run an entire 5K without stopping because you built that momentum. You have to think about your goals that way, your goals, your intentions, however you want to call them. You have to think about them that way. I think a lot of us get burned out and overwhelmed. One is because we give ourselves too much time. A year is too much time to do some of the goals that we have. Like we could truly knock them out if we prioritize. So that's why I'm focusing on 90 days. Think about it, just like college, you knock stuff out within the semester, right? You so things were quick. One of my degrees, I think I went to school like every 8 weeks, and I was taking classes like every 8 weeks to knock it out. So you'll be surprised of what you can accomplish in a short amount of time if you focus and prioritize and do what you need to do every single day. Just like Couch to 5K, you're going to do something every day. The system, you follow it every single day. So with your goals, the reason why you need to be specific and count up the costs without and knowing all the details is so that you can pace yourself, right? Some things you can totally knock out, and in the beginning, and some things are going to take a little longer, but you've conditioned your mind to say, you know what, okay, this may take me a little longer, but you're still doing in that window. Comment down below and let me know if that makes sense. So what I want you to do, you're because I told you this is not just your typical video for y'all to sit up here and watch me. I got a lot of videos on my channel for you to do that. The first thing I want you to do is find your number one impact goal. So your number one impact goal, meaning if I accomplish this one thing, how would it move me forward? And it doesn't have to be the a life changing or world saving goal. I think some of us have fallen into that trap as well. It's like, well, my goal is not significant enough. I just want to buy a new wardrobe and I haven't I let my style go for a while, and I just really want to get a new like full out wardrobe. And if you are a fashion person or really into clothes, you know what it takes. We're not talking about just going to shopping spree. We know it takes some time to do a full on wardrobe haul. So I think that's a pretty massive, undertaking, but to each his own. So if that is something and that's something you truly want to do, you still get specific about that. You still make it realistic. And you go through all the things. What do you want to look like? And you do all the work, right? And then the reason why I'm picking something like that instead of income or weight is because you have to do things that's gonna make you move forward, push your needle forward. So if you looking good, feeling good, getting the new material on your body, just being able to see your clothes out there or shoes and accessories a certain way, when you put those clothes on, how it makes you feel, and if it's gonna cause you to show up more and do more, I want you to get into that feeling. So if that's an impactful goal to you, regardless of what anyone else says, focus on that. And so go ahead and say that is your impact goal. And when you do that, you're going to have to focus on your mindset. So now we're into the 3 pillars. So I'll write impact goal one more time. So you write your impact goal. Oh, number 1, impact. Now the 3 pillars, probably can't see that. Can you see that? No, you cannot see that. It says 3 pillars. Pillars. Okay, so the 3 pillars. So if you say if it's your wardrobe, if it's a book, if it's learning how to cook, I don't really it doesn't matter to me what it is because it's your impact goal, and don't let anybody else tell you that is not a good goal. So the first thing you need to do is shift your mindset. Now, mindset is I think is getting more traction in this space, but it's some people are still like confused about what mindset is. So a definition of mindset is, where do I have my definition? Is defined as an established set of attitudes held by someone. It's your beliefs, a way of thinking, and how you feel about events, people, or circumstances in your life. So it's your attitudes and beliefs. And I know people throw around mindset so much. I even talk about mindset, but I want you to understand today that it's your attitude and your beliefs. Is your attitude, oh, beliefs is off the screen, but it's attitude and beliefs. And it's your attitudes and beliefs about the goal that you're trying to accomplish. If you don't do the inner work to uncover whatever you have against your goal, you're not going to accomplish it. I've seen that within myself. I've seen that within clients. I've seen that within friends. I've seen that with just people on the internet. So if your impact goal was to change your wardrobe, but you have an internal battle about, well, if somebody said something you years ago about you think you all that because you're dressed a certain way, or you shouldn't be spending money on clothes, or whatever it is, you're not going to accomplish it. You're going to still stay in the same rut, or you're going to be burned out trying to do something else or approach it in a way that's not authentic to you. So you have to really sit down and do the work on working through your attitudes and beliefs about that particular goal. So I did a series, September is Significant, on my YouTube channel, and I walked you through a way on how to make transformation in your life specifically, because sometimes personal development, but I call it personal leadership because I got that from someone else. I like that term, so I'm using it. Personal self leadership, it can be vague, it can be intangible, it can be just up in the air and abstract. But when you put it through the lens of getting a tangible result, it makes sense. So when you're talking about shifting your attitude and beliefs, or how you view certain things or perspective as it relates to your goal, then you'll understand the work that you need to do. The second one is strategy. Now, the word strategy again gets thrown around a lot. You hear systems, framework, and strategy, and you're like, well, what is that? It is a way of doing things. Just like when I talked about running the marathon, Couch to 5K, that app, the strategy was like every day you do something. Of course, you had some rest days in there, but every day you get up and it will tell you today you do this kind of stretch. Today you're going to walk for 30 seconds and then you're going to run for a mile, and then you're going to do that process, and then tomorrow you're going to stretch for 30 seconds and you're going to walk for 2 miles and then you're going to run for 30 seconds. That is a strategy. That's just one strategy that you can do to start running a 5K. If it's one thing with the with school, like college, the strategy is like, okay, we give everyone a plan of study that you do at the beginning of the school year. Then you can go to your advisor. Well, it says that you need to take a humanities course, right? Well, what type of humanities course? If you're smart and if you did it this way, then what type of humanities course can I take that still aligns to, I don't know, me wanting to become a mathematician? I mean, that's a real example. That's what happened. That's a strategy instead of just willy-nilly taking, a humanities course because it had an H next to it, right? So how am I going to put something in place? What are the steps that I'm going to take, the strategic steps I'm going to take to make sure I accomplish the goal? So it's really about you breaking down your milestones, and that's why I like the 90-day sprint. When I look back over how I accomplished certain goals, they were all broken down. They weren't these year-long things. They were all, you know what, I'm giving myself this time frame. I'm giving myself this time frame, right? So do that. And I know it sounds cliche, but if you're sitting there burned out, you have not done this work. You have not put a strategy. And if you haven't put a strategy in place, ask for help. Right? Get a coach, a consultant, a mentor, or accountability partner if you want to help you put a strategy in place. And then the third thing, another strategy in which I talked to you about, you can Google this or you can comment down below and I'll put something together and send it to you. If you uh, subscribe to the live stream, like the live stream is free, you can watch it here on YouTube or Facebook. But if you want detailed resources and reminders and other things to talk about and more access, subscribe to the live stream series, and that information will be down below. The third thing you need to do, and this is where the burnout happens, it is execute. We have to execute. You hear it all the time. That's what implementation is. There's nothing wrong with you. If you have not written your book yet, or if you have not released that weight, if you have not learned how to cook, if you have not built that wardrobe, it doesn't matter nothing that I talk about. Or we can do everything that I talk about until you physically get up and move and do something, right? And if you're not putting pen to paper, or you ordering something online or going to the store to try things on, or picking up the weight or pushing back the plate, if you're not doing any of that, then truth be told, you're still lost in the sauce between one and two, between mindset and strategy, right? And it's really more so mindset. You still haven't dug down into an attitude of belief about something, right? Now, if it's something that's tragic and you just really can't overcome it, then you probably need to go to therapy and work things out. There's absolutely nothing wrong with therapy. Now, some people may come for me when I say this. I don't think you need to spend years in therapy if it's about the same issue. You may have it, like on tap and work through some things. But if it's something that going through like coaching strategies or personal growth strategies that you can't work through it, then yes, please go and get therapy. But at some point, once you realize what is happening, you talk to the licensed professional, then you need to start getting some things and some strategies and things to go ahead and move forward so you can execute. This is why you need to get things out of your head, talk with another person, process some information so someone can say, like, say something to you to trigger, like, oh, that's probably why I haven't done what I need to do. Let me work through that. And now I need to execute. There are so many brilliant people on the planet. One of my missions is to bankrupt a billion burial plots so that you can live, so that a billion people can live a life poured out above ground before they go underneath ground. Some of you know my story with my mom. There are so many things that I found after she passed away, some of the things that she wanted to accomplish, and it just broke my heart that she did not accomplish those things. And guess what? Even though my sister and I wrote a book using a lot of her notes, and we published that, it's still not the same as my mom publishing her books. There are some things that she wants to accomplish that she will never be able to do, some lives she will never be able to touch that she was meant to touch because she did not go forth and do those things. She did some amazing things, but when I saw the list, it was what she accomplished was minute compared to what she wanted to. And I was like, never again do I ever want to that's been my mission, for people not to live like that. Okay. So before I get all choked up. All right, so the reason why I'm sharing with this in 90 days is because I've seen the power of 90 days. When I worked with my first client, and you know, she was like new to this personal development, and she's a college professor, and I've known her, and we always spend our time working on professional development. We'll go to conferences, we'll go to workshops, we'll do all the trainings and things like that for our careers, and those were solid. But it's like, what about the other areas of your life? What about the things in your personal life? Don't you want to do something else besides being, a college professor? And then so we worked through those things, and I introduced her to like the 9 areas of life because I was introduced to it, and it felt like a little corny and a little cheesy. But the more I delved into it, which is now I've discovered 15 plus areas that you can focus on. But when I work with her over 12 weeks, and to see the transformation of the things that she actually accomplished, moving to a new city, working at a new university, starting her consulting business, traveling internationally, and getting some other things started, outlining a program that she wanted to do for girls, I was blown away. And I didn't continue on that particular path because, in my own head, I'm like, was this a fluke? Yeah, I mean, did she work with me? And she paid me because she's my friend. you know, all those things that I didn't work on, my mindset, my attitude and beliefs, which is why I'm coming so strongly about mindset. And just looking at how what she was able to do in 12 weeks was mind blowing. And she even said some of the things. She was like, I've had some of these things on my vision board for years, and I never took the first step. You want to know why? Oh, it was a mindset thing, but it was really a strategy thing. Sometimes you just need somebody, just like college. You might say, I want to go to school for 4 years, I want this degree, but until they give you like this plan of study, or until you get into your major and your with your professors, and they give you the syllabus for you to follow, until you get that strategy on actually what to do, it is going to be very challenging for you to execute. All right. So, um, 90-day blueprint. I told you that there are about 15 types methods for you to choose goal setting. I'm going to read them out to you again. You can Google them, but if you don't want to Google, you can let me know. See if I can pull it up. So, 15 types that you can do. Some of them, of course, we know are the SMART goals. That's the one that's most popular. The one that's the most popular. Then you have your backward goal setting. We do a lot of that in the education setting. Then you have your OKR, which is objectives and key results. I love those. Then you have the WOOP method. You know what? It is the wish, outcome, and obstacle. Then hard goals, BHAG, milestone based, target based, time bound, process oriented, feedback. All of stretch goals. There are different methods. And the reason why I want to bring up those different methods is, like I said before, sometimes just hearing the word, sometimes being locked into one type of method can kind of set you up for the okie doke, because you may have this underlining attitude about something. So I encourage you to go look at different methods. Now, the reason why, again, 90 days, I think that's still a long enough time for you to kind of get into the groove of things. But then it's a short amount of time, so you're not dragging things out and it's like lighting a fire up underneath you. If you had to run if you like, I wrote a book in from I wrote it in less than 90 days, but from time of thought to publication was 90 days. And so it really took me less time to write it, but I had a strategy. A coach that I worked with at the time gave me a strategy to knock this out. So first, if I didn't have the mindset of what it needs to take to write the book, the attitudes and beliefs, then I probably wouldn't have done it. If I didn't I knew I had a strategy to write. I knew, look, I wrote a whole dissertation in 6 weeks, or did an entire dissertation study in 6 weeks. So I knew I could write a book, but I'm thinking it would take a long time. People are saying it takes me, it took me 6 months, it took me a year, and I was prepared to do that. But then I got a strategy to say, you can knock out the foundational stuff in 7 days. And I was like, what? So I got the strategy to do that. But then the thing was, I executed, right? And then I got the things done. So you can do things in 90 days. I invite you to go back and look at your vision boards and see what you can chunk down in 90 days. So some questions you may have is, well, what if I don't know what my most important goal is? And that's where you brainstorm. I would love to talk with you about that. I have a workshop that's coming up on Saturday, this Saturday, January the 11th. The information will also be down below or on my social, so you can register for that. It's complimentary. Then we can work through that. But sit down and take some time for you to think. You need at least 20 minutes of thinking time a day, right? Um, and then number two is, what if I tried 90-day plans before and they still don't work? And I said most plans fail due to lack of accountability and flexibility. I'm not saying that it's gonna be a guaranteed thing that you're going to hit your goal in 90 days. When you have a parameter like that, it just makes you, do what you need to do. It makes you focus, and then it makes you cut out the excuses. So just like if my doctorate, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get my doctorate degree in 3 years. But if I would have said, I'll just go, and when I get in, there were people who showed up with me. Now, luckily, the program I chose, it was a 3-year program. Like they structured it, structure, and it was a strategy that they did it that way. But there are still people who were taking like 5 and 7 years to finish. But if I would have just been like, yeah, I'll just go and whatever happens, and then I would just kept coasting along. But because I went in and gave myself 3 years, come hell or high water, I was gonna be finished in 3 years. So then when ish hit the fan and things were happening, I still had that no matter what mentality. So now, would I have fallen apart if I didn't accomplish? No, because then I still pushed myself further than I probably would have. Same thing with writing a book. Because I gave myself 90 days, I learned the strategy to do it faster. And then, so that means put myself up there to work that quickly. I set things up so I could do that. What else I was going to say? If you give yourself to a year to like run a marathon, you're probably, oh, here's a better example. Scratch all that. When you're in college, if you went and the professor gave you, let's say the professor gave you a, if you had to do a paper, a major paper by the end of the first semester. So a semester is like about 16 weeks. And then you're like, this is due. They tell you at the beginning and they're like, it is due during finals week. How many of you will start working on it immediately if you had all that time? Not many of us. There are a select few, and even myself, I'm like, I'm not, I'll wait, right? There are some people, even if it was a 50-page paper, who would wait the week before. And I've seen people, not 50 pages, but I've seen people knock, 20, 30 pages out in a weekend, right? So because they gave you that much time, you actually got it done in a short amount of time. So you're just reversing it, taking all of that, stress off you. I'm going to give myself this amount of time. Now the flexibility part comes in is like is your timeline. So if you don't have it, it's not like school, you're not going to fail, right? But you'll get a lot more accomplished. And then um the thing I want you now, some people may disagree. I'm going to write this word, well, this phrase. Can you see that? Perfect progress. Some people say focus on progress and not perfection. I disagree with that just a little bit, because when you really look up the word perfect, it means to get it done. I won't go through my entire analogy about that, but perfect, now the issue is perfectionism. We're not talking about, we're just talking about perfect. Perfect means getting it done. And when you look at the progress that you're making, if you made progress and got it done, that is perfect progress. And I want to focus on perfect progress instead of the phrase perfection, progress over perfection, is because sometimes, now, this may not be everybody, but I'm just here to say some things. If you only focus on progress, that could be a little bit of a cop out. And let me tell you why. And this is why you need to go through all of the other things. And I'm using the book example again. If you want to write a book, let's say you gave yourself 90 days and your target is, and this is why you need daily targets and milestones, 300 pages a day, right? Or just say 300, we'll say 300 pages a day, 5 days a week. We'll say that. And if you're like, okay, I wrote 50 words today, but I'm slowly churning it out, or, today I only wrote a sentence, I am making progress, give myself space, self-care, right? No, your daily target was 300. When you hit 300, that is your perfect progress. You did your milestone, you accomplished it. Now, will you do it every day? No, but there are some days like, okay, so I'll give you an example of what I did. I had a daily word limit. I don't remember what it was. After I knocked out the first initial strategy, this is how when I actually start writing. I had a daily word count, and then there were some mornings where I literally had to get up and I just sat at the computer, and I was like, "Is nothing coming?" But I still make sure I got up and got there, right? And I gave myself, I think, like an hour or 90 minutes to write something, and I was like, I would just sit there even if I wrote, I'm here because nothing was flowing, then I was like, okay, I made progress. Now, after I did that a few times, then accountability had to kick up like, okay, chick, if your full goal is to finish this in 90 days, this is the word count that your book needs to be. Let's get it together. And so now it's like, since you didn't do 300 on those days, now you need to do 900 on this day. So crank it out. So do you understand what I mean about perfect progress? This is not letting yourself off the hook. Some days you're not going to hit it, but what are you going to do on the other days when you can hit it? You crank it back up, and then you start getting in the momentum. And I didn't allow myself to, just miss those days again like that. All right. So I like perfect progress, meaning I got a target, my daily target, and I accomplished that. Same thing with working out. I want to work out, let's say 3 days a week. One day I did it, even if I just did, 5 jumping jacks, right? But then once you start doing that, you don't let yourself, well, I did 5 jumping jacks for 2 months. But if your end goal is to release, 30 pounds, then 5 jumping jacks is going, anyway, I don't want to keep going down the hole. You know what I'm talking about. So don't let yourself off the hook. And this is why you need accountability, not just with yourself and with other people, and we could talk more about that if you come to my workshop that I'm doing this Saturday, January the 11th. All right. So that's all I have for you. This is our first episode. If you really want to take a deeper dive into the 90-day blueprint, how you can crush your goals without the burnout, even if you bought a vision board course, even if you are, coaching with somebody right now, I was still invite you to the workshop because I still want to make sure that you have the solid foundation that you need to really go into 2025 alive and thriving, and reviving all the words that go with that, right? Because I am over people getting upset with courses, coaches, consultants, programs, whatever, and you haven't done the work. So let's see if you've gotten all your things in place so that you can get that return on your investment and make sure that you're going in the right path. Even if you don't sign up to work with me, I still want to be able to make sure I can look at it, because that's what I do like an advisor. That's what I do, and then point you in the right direction. So that will take place. You can learn more about the workshop with the information down below. And make sure you subscribe, because I will be back next Tuesday at 12. It was a little late today, but I will be back next Tuesday live. And I would love for you to come so I can, read what you have to say in the comments, answer any questions, and make sure you subscribe so you can get all of the great things that you can see behind the scenes. All right. Thank you so much for listening and learning with me today. And go ahead and crush your goals without burning out so you can have a remarkable life, because it still takes one shift for you to be able to do that. All right. Until next time. Bye, everyone.